Welcome to All Things Moore County, Moore County's weekly radio show highlighting the many facets of the Sandhills. That includes real estate, lifestyle, community, and neighborhoods. And now, from 4 Properties, here's your host, Bill Sahadi.
Good morning and welcome to the talk show, All Things Moore County. Dorothy, we're entering the fall and the holiday season, which is going to get very busy here very quickly.
Yes, it will.
It's a good time right now to kind of recap. You know, the theme of the show has been, we've been covering the many different subcultures of Moore County over the years.
Yeah.
From golf and equine activities to wellness, to nonprofits, to the arts, to primarily the students, because they're sometimes way more interesting than the adults because they're less layered.
Yes.
And the kids, when they come on, right, the way they are so eager to, and they're being put out there on the line, and it takes courage.
Yes, it does.
So we love to celebrate all the subcultures that exist here in Moore County. And today we're going to circle back to the subculture of wellness. We've had physical therapists on, we've had physicians on. Debbie Spurlock was on a couple of times with her holistic practice of health and wellness. And she used to be a pharmacist, if you'll remember. And Debbie will be back on later this fall.
Okay.
And just recently we had Samantha Patterson on, who talks about aging consulting, guiding people who live in their homes, not moving to assisted living, but being in a situation where there are different periods in our lives where care is needed. So we've kind of run the gambit, and today we want to talk. We're speaking with Maggie Bonecutter, who is the Hospice and Palliative Care Liaison at FirstHealth. People who live here will know Maggie. You've been a Moore County resident for 17 years.
That's right.
You have a daughter at Pinecrest.
I do.
Volleyball star.
Yes.
She's going to go to college and try to do the same?
Her goal is to be a physical therapist.
Oh, is that right?
So we think she might go to App State.
And we've had occupational therapists on.
Yes.
And so it's really, it's a small world, but there is between yoga and holistic practices and medicine and being around the center of FirstHealth. Wellness is such a big part of our living and the different stages of lives that we have here in 5 generations.
Mm-hmm. It sure is.
Right? You haven't been with Moore. You've been in Moore County for 17 years, but you've been with FirstHealth for about a year and a half.
That's right.
Your background, though, is in marketing and teaching and writing.
It is.
And tell me how it evolved that you moved from there to the Liaison where you are, because it's marketing as well, isn't it?
It sure is.
Yeah.
Yes. It's all about communication. So I was a marketing exec at Bank of America for a long time. And then when my daughters came along, I took a slower route and did consulting. And I did marketing consulting, and then I was a freelance writer for many years. I wrote for Carowinds, and I wrote for hospital systems all around the country, including Cedars-Sinai and Mass General and some major hospitals. And one of those health systems included FirstHealth of the Carolinas. And then my daughters got older, and they didn't need me quite as much, and so I decided it's my turn to have fun.
Right.
And so I saw that this job with hospice and palliative care was open, and I had written about them quite a bit in my freelance career with FirstHealth. So I said, let's give it a whirl. And it has been one of the best decisions I've ever made.
Is that right? So you're writing, you actually were in the medical industry, the community, in terms of a lot of what you wrote.
I was, yes. I wrote articles and websites, brochures, anything a client needed, I wrote for them.
Do you do a lot of public speaking in the community to educate people about
I certainly do.
Okay.
Yes. That's one of my goals, is to educate people and dispel some myths about hospice and palliative care, so it's not such a scary concept when the time comes for these types of care.
I think many people they know the term hospice and they know the term palliative. Not sure that as many people know the differences, between the two of them. And I'm sure that's a question you get asked all the time.
It is a question I get asked all the time, and it's a great question.
Yeah.
And you're right, most people are familiar with hospice. They've had a loved one go through hospice. It's been a type of care that has been around since the late 60s, early 70s. As a concept of care, it has always existed, but as a formal type of care, it became prevalent in the UK in the late 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And then it came to the States in the 70s. And a group of volunteers decided in the late 70s that Moore County needed hospice care. And so they sat around a dining room table and formed Sandhills Hospice. And then it evolved, and it now is covered by Medicare. So hospice is very much of a standard treatment of care. And how it differs from palliative care is that hospice is available to people who we think have a life expectancy of about 6 months or less.
Mm-hmm.
And, as humans, we're horrible predictors of life expectancy, but based on what we know,
Yeah.
about 6 months.
Yeah.
And it is also for people who choose to forego aggressive treatment. No more chemo, no more radiation,
Mm-hmm.
no more doctor visits. People just decide they want to go home and be comfortable and rest and be with their families.
Okay. Most of the hospice care is it in the home?
It is in the home. That's
Okay.
a great question.
Okay.
So at least at FirstHealth Hospice, as of right now, we have about 175 people who have care in their homes. And that can be their personal home. It can be skilled nursing, assisted living, independent living. However, when symptoms become a little bit too much that they cannot be managed in a home setting,
Right.
then folks can go to our hospice house, which is just north of the hospital on 15501.
Right.
And
Okay.
that's an 11-bed facility for acute needs.
Yeah. Is there a timeline requirement on hospice care for insurance? Because, yes, you say approximately 6 months, but I've heard stories where people will live quite a bit longer than that.
That's very true.
What happens? Does the insurance stop covering?
No, it
Oh,
doesn't
good.
stop covering it.
Okay.
It keeps continue covering. What will happen is that patient will be evaluated after the 6-month period,
Right.
and then it will be determined if that patient is still on a decline, then yes, they can continue with hospice care.
Okay. So somebody is not within 6 or 10 months of leaving us, but they need palliative care.
Mm-hmm.
So tell me the difference.
Sure.
Yeah.
That was a great way to phrase it. If folks are experiencing a serious condition
Uh-huh.
or a condition that is progressive,
Uh-huh.
then they can sign up for palliative care.
Mm-hmm.
And palliative care does not have any type of time frame attached to it like 6 months. That is just for people who need extra support. So I can use my mom as an example if you'd like.
Yes, please.
So she lives in an assisted living facility in Pinehurst.
Mm-hmm.
And she is sharp as a tack. She sits on the front porch, rocks in a rocking chair all day long.
Right.
She knows every clean and dirty joke in the book, and she will gladly share those jokes with anybody who comes around.
Okay.
And she tries to trick people into believing she's a retired semi-exotic pole dancer, but she's not. She's a retired teacher.
The sense of humor comes for free, huh?
It does come for free. That's right.
Okay.
So she knows every person in that facility. She knows their comings and goings, sharp as a tack.
Okay.
But she's had breast cancer twice. She has congestive heart failure. She has multiple myeloma that she's being treated for right now.
Okay.
She does have serious illnesses. but there's no time limitation on any of those. And she is still seeking aggressive treatment. She still has all of her regular doctors.
Mm-hmm.
She's going for treatment for her multiple myeloma and her congestive heart failure. She knows that these conditions are not reversible,
Okay.
but she's seeking treatment to help prolong life
Okay.
and to help give her the best life possible. So she's enrolled in palliative care.
Okay.
And how that works is a palliative care provider comes to visit her about once a month. They talk about her symptoms, her medications. They talk about what her advance directives, her living will, her healthcare power of attorney. They talk about what these diseases might look like as they progress. So palliative care does not treat the condition itself. It doesn't treat the multiple myeloma nor the congestive heart failure. It treats everything that surrounds it. And that might be symptom management.
Mm-hmm.
It might be helping her come to grips with these heavy diagnoses. So at her disposal, she has a nurse practitioner. She also has a social worker who can talk with her about these conditions. So another word, palliative is such a weird word. We haven't heard of that.
Right.
A better word for it is supportive care.
Okay.
It's all the things except the illness itself. It helps provide for a better quality of life by giving information, support, and symptom relief.
Does the palliative care team communicate with like in your case of your mother, any of her doctors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, a palliative care person is very much a go-between.
Okay.
It's an extra set of eyes and ears in between her regular doctor appointments to help her stay out of the hospital.
Okay. With people in palliative care, does depression become a symptom too that they can identify, perhaps, that hasn't been identified beforehand?
Sure.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
Because if people have the time to process, we as humans, we overprocess.
Yes, we do.
Right? And we believe what we think.
Mm-hmm.
And I would think is it true what they say about the mood swings and the depression based on the sunlight and the darkness? When the days get shorter, that there's an increase in some sort of depression?
That's entirely possible. There is something called seasonal affective disorder.
Okay.
And yeah, sure.
See, I can only speak like a layman. You can address me way better.
Well. But that definitely can happen. And the palliative care provider can pick up on those situations.
Right. Okay.
And can refer to helpful resources.
Okay. Let's come back in the second set. I have a bunch of questions to ask you, but thanks for laying out the differences.
Yes.
This set. Maggie Bonecutter is our guest. She is the Hospice and Palliative Liaison at FirstHealth. This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our second set of All Things Moore County. Our guest for the hour is Maggie Bonecutter. She is the Hospice and Palliative Care Liaison at FirstHealth. Maggie spoke a lot about the differences between palliative care and hospice in the first set, big picture items. Want to get into a few more specifics and probably some stories. But I have to tell you, as I was listening to you, in our real estate business, we come up upon people all the time who are trying to sell a property. Sometimes it's the children coming in to help their parents. Sometimes it's the parents who need to move to assisted living. There are medical issues, and we are at the beginning of it. We don't get in as far as you do, and so we do see that. And I have a situation with a lady. She's in great health. She's 85. Her son wants her to move to Kansas. she loves living in Pinehurst. She's lost a lot of her friends. And as a result, they're going back and forth and deciding, because selling your home is like losing control.
It sure is.
And I think that's how and it's saying
Oh.
goodbye to her husband, who had passed away a few years ago, and they built the home together. So my view is from the cheap seats. Your view is from the box seats, and that's what I want to talk about. And one quick comment. The cheap seats comment, when you mention hospice, I think a lot of people think, well, that means every other day they're visited by a nurse practitioner and they're given some morphine to ease their pain. And that's, some people just have that simple view of hospice, but that's not truly what it is.
You're exactly right. It's not what it is. That is the common theme, and that is a common thought about hospice. And it goes back because in our society, with all of our wonderful medical miracles, we think that death is a failure, and it's not. Death is very natural, and so hospice helps people on that journey. So I hear these myths all the time that hospice speeds up death, that hospice is withdrawing food and water.
Really?
I hear it. And that it's withdrawing medications that they had once before, and it's only adding morphine. Oh my goodness. And that could not be any farther from the truth.
Okay.
So anyone who goes on hospice care has a very well laid out plan of care according to their goals and according to their wishes. And that involves typically what a hospice patient experiences is a nurse will come to visit once a week and more as the condition progresses, and visit once a week to check in on the patient, see how things are going, check in on the family, see how things are going, because hospice is just as much for the family as it is for the patient. And then a nurse aide will come out a couple to several times a week for personal grooming. And also at their disposal is a social worker who may come out once a month and check on what's going on with their emotions and with the patient and with the family, and also connect the family to resources that can help, community resources to help, because not only is the person ill, there can be a whole host of other dynamics that need to be addressed to care for the family.
I see.
Also available is a chaplain and a volunteer.
Oh.
Yes, if they so choose. And so the notion of just withdrawing everything and just loading the patient up with morphine, that is just not true.
Right.
And I can give you an example of what hospice really is.
Please.
So, and I'll tell it in the form of a story.
Okay.
So once upon a time, there was a boy and a girl who fell in love, and they got married, and they had a huge family. And then something happened, and the man and the woman fell out of love, and they got divorced. And then many years after that, somehow they crossed paths, not sure how, and they realized they'd made a horrible mistake, and they wanted to get remarried. Well, the boy, now the man, ended up at Moore Regional Hospital, and then he ended up in the hospice house. But the man and the woman didn't care. They were still going to get married. So the sons got dad ready, and the daughters got mom ready, and somehow our nurses wheeled the patient from the hospice house down a little hill to our interdenominational chapel on the campus. And the man and the woman got remarried.
Wow.
And in that moment, nobody was sick. There were no caregivers. It was just a family that was made whole. And so that's what hospice is. It's caring for people in their physical form, but it's also addressing whatever they need to help make their life whole as well.
Right. You made a great point earlier about hospice and palliative care not just being for for the patient, but for the family and the loved ones.
Very
Because
much.
there's a support net that everyone needs to be pulled in together, because there's a lot of stress on the the siblings or the family that is surrounding the individual that's not well.
Absolutely.
Right.
And with hospice, also, the care doesn't stop after the loved one passes away. Families who have a loved one who was lost in hospice are entitled to 13 months of bereavement counseling. And 13 months, that sounds like a weird number, but the 13 months gets someone through the first birthdays, the first holidays, the first anniversary of the loved one's passing.
Wow. I've been to funerals where the family has had the hospice care workers attend.
Yes.
And I have seen social media posts about the admiration that the family had for the hospice practitioners on behalf of their relative or loved one.
Yes.
So it does last beyond the person's passing.
Oh, absolutely. In our office, we have a huge stack of thank you notes from families.
That doesn't surprise me.
Yes.
That doesn't surprise me.
Oh my goodness. I hear dozens and dozens of times when I go and talk with people that hospice workers are angels. I hear it all the time.
Yeah. They have to have a special mentality to be able to serve that way.
Yes.
But it's sharing themselves with others.
Very much so.
Yeah. Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about your dad? Because we spoke before the
Yes.
show, and your father passed away. He had what was it called?
It's called black lung disease.
Black
He
lung
was a
disease.
coal miner in West Virginia.
Okay.
And he was a safety director. And it was his job to make the mines safe and to make sure that every miner got home at night. But as a part of that, he was in the mines quite a bit, and he was exposed to dust. And so he got a disease called black lung disease.
Right.
And it's a respiratory condition. It is horrible, awful, no good. I would not wish it on anyone. When he got down to 125 pounds on a 6'2" frame, I should have known he wasn't getting better.
Oh my gosh.
But I didn't. And so I wish that someone had spoken with us about hospice. And this was years ago, and palliative care wasn't as well known then as it is now, but hospice certainly was. And so I wish someone would have talked with us about that, because knowing now what I know that he would have benefited tremendously, and my mother and I would have benefited too.
Huh. Who makes the initial call on palliative care? The physicians, someone like Samantha, who's talking to a person aging in their home, and she's the liaison with that individual's siblings. How does that all come about, where somebody pulls a trigger?
Sure. So with palliative care, it is best to get the ball rolling upon diagnosis. If someone is diagnosed with congestive heart failure or COPD or any type of cancer, it is a good idea to go ahead and engage a palliative care practitioner. And the referral can come from the doctor, or it can come from the family. And if it comes from the family, then a palliative care office will coordinate with that person's healthcare providers.
Okay.
But it is best. And dementia is, or brain change, as we call it in Moore County, it is good to get engaged with palliative care as soon as possible for the most benefit, because we want to walk alongside these folks throughout their journey so we can help them achieve the best quality of life possible.
When you're speaking to people in public or at luncheons or whatever, is your audience the generation before the younger generation, to educate them so that they know what to do on behalf perhaps of their parents?
Absolutely.
That's where you are? Okay.
Absolutely. It is typically folks who are in about my age, in their 50s and 60s, some
Right.
in their 70s.
Right.
And I tell them they can advocate for their parents, They can advocate for friends, and I want them to have this information so that when they get older,
Right.
they will be empowered to ask for the type of care they want.
The people need a lot of guidance to make healthcare decisions on behalf of others, right?
Yes.
And they get the information from you. They'll get it from someone like Samantha, the doctors, but there's no one. I mean, it's almost like 20, 25 years ago, this wasn't available to people. Today, there are resources where people
Right.
can do their research and make informed decisions.
Right.
Right.
Right. And that can come from numerous places.
Right.
If someone in palliative care, for example, I look to my mother's palliative care provider
Okay.
for advice because she sees my mother in a holistic way. And her palliative care provider will come to me and say, hey, this is what I saw with your mom.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
But you're right, there's all kinds of information. Someone with a cancer diagnosis likely has a nurse navigator in their team, and that person can help navigate through the system and help provide them with information that aligns with their goals and wishes.
Okay.
So it can also, your primary care provider, that person also has a holistic view of your care,
Right.
and can talk with you about future needs.
Your relationship, then, you must be a conduit to all the physicians
Yes.
at FirstHealth. I mean, there are so many of them, and they know they call you or they contact you when they have a patient. Do they start that conversation with you? How does that work?
So that's a great question. They call our office,
Okay.
our palliative care office,
Okay.
and they can say, I have a patient who I think would benefit from palliative care.
Okay.
And then that referral comes in and it is given to one of our palliative care providers.
Okay.
And then they'll meet with the patient and confer about their goals and the whole situation,
Okay.
and then talk with their provider to make sure that everything is in alignment.
Very good information. I'm very engaged just listening to you. Let's come back in the final set. Maggie Bonecutter, she is the Hospice and Palliative Liaison at FirstHealth. Great communication, by the way.
Thank you.
This is All Things Moore County. Welcome back to our final set of All Things Moore County with Maggie Bonecutter, the Hospice and Palliative Liaison at FirstHealth. You have painted some word pictures for me as I'm listening to you. You made a mention in the last set about when you speak to groups, it's usually the generation before or of the person ahead of them, a parent or something.
Yes.
And then you made me think of, I was 30 years old. I had just started working, and I got a phone call from a guy who was trying to sell me life insurance. I was 30 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I was thinking about where I was going to have dinner Friday night and what I was going to do with my friends. What do you mean life insurance?
Right.
Or disability insurance? I'm
Right.
not going to be disabled. So how do you hook people into awareness and listening when it's something that, in this case, I guess, for their parents or the generation ahead of them, but is it a difficult engagement?
Sometimes it is a difficult engagement. That's
Yeah.
a great question because we don't want to think about these things.
Uh-huh.
We don't want to think about life insurance and all the things that
No.
could happen.
Right.
But it is so important
Yeah.
to be thinking of that. And the reason I say that is for families and for the patients themselves. As we talked about before, with all these wonderful medical miracles, we think we should live forever. But we aren't going to live forever.
Right.
And so planning, we plan for weddings. We plan for babies to come. Those are big life events. And death is also a big life event. And
Right.
we should be planning for that as well. And being aware of the resources available through hospice and palliative care, I think are absolutely essential. As I mentioned with my dad, had I known about these types of care, our journey would have been much smoother. So I'm on a mission to educate people well in advance.
Should it have been smoother for you because you had false hopes or expectations of an outcome?
That's a great question. I think yes.
Yeah. I think so too. I think managing people's expectations in everything that they do is
Yes.
so important.
It's very important.
Right.
And giving information straight up
Right.
and giving, solid information at the right time, at the right place is essential.
So in the hospice scenario, there must be some coaching with the patient because they're there to provide support, but they're also letting them know this is not the beginning of, this is not a new beginning.
Right.
This is sort of a gentle, loving exit strategy, pretty much, right?
That's a great way to put it. I never thought of the term exit strategy, but that's a great way to think about it.
Yeah.
And it is providing comfort
Mm-hmm.
and security
Mm-hmm.
in a way that aligns with the patient's goals and values. And that's different for everyone. So our nurses and our social workers are very in tune with what's important to the patient and their families,
Right.
and they guide their counsel accordingly.
You probably have a large crew of nurses and practitioners at your behest, but you probably
We do.
also have a lot of volunteers to help the program. And
We do.
Tell me about the role of volunteers.
Oh, the role of volunteer is absolutely essential within hospice.
Okay.
So, as I mentioned before, hospice started out as a group of volunteers. And Medicare believes so strongly in the role of volunteers that they require that 5% of all patient hour care given be given by volunteers.
Really?
Yes, and that can be either in direct patient care or it can be in office tasks. But hospice volunteers are considered non-paid employees of a hospice agency. And oh my goodness, we love our volunteers so much. And their role is, it seems simple, but it's uniquely complex. Their role is whatever the patient needs. It can be just talking with the patient.
Mm-hmm.
If the patient wants to watch TV, they watch TV. It could be any number of play chess or listen to music or read poetry. And during that time frame when a volunteer is visiting with the patient, that can be essential for a caregiver as well, because caregiver burnout is very real. And the ability to talk with someone
Yeah.
who is not in the home at all times
Right.
is wonderful. And also, a volunteer provides a little bit of a respite. So a caregiver can go run an errand,
Right.
or take a nap,
Right.
or just go outside and catch their breath.
My brother lost his wife. She was 61,
Oh.
ALS,
Oh.
4 years ago.
Mm.
He had retired, but Ray volunteers in one of the hospitals in northern New Jersey as a hospice volunteer. It's, I think, 2 days a week.
Mm-hmm.
He goes in and like you said, he speaks to them. So it makes me think that a lot of these volunteers come from a place of inspiration because they have experienced and they want to share, and it's sort of like paying it forward.
Absolutely. Paying it forward. That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Many of our hospice volunteers have had loved ones who passed through hospice.
Right.
And they
Makes
do
sense.
feel like they're giving back. And these volunteers have a particular unique capacity
Right.
because they have lost someone in that way. They've walked in those shoes.
Right. It just hit me.
Mm-hmm.
I thought my brother was just trying to volunteer to do this or that, but it had a lot to do with Marcia, his wife,
Oh, goodness.
and why he did it. And so now, I mean, I'll see him this week, and we'll talk about it,
Yes.
and he'll listen to your show, I'm sure.
Oh, good. There's also, we have many hospice agencies have a veteran-to-veteran program.
Oh,
And here in Moore County, that's particularly strong because of all of our veterans in the area.
Yeah.
So we match a volunteer who is a veteran or active duty
Right.
with a veteran in our care.
yeah.
And they conduct a pinning ceremony where they present the patient and spouse with a pin and a certificate. and it is a very moving experience.
Earlier this year, we had Robert Nunnally
Yes.
on, and he came in, and I think he owns 3 different funeral homes. He came on and he spoke eloquently about the type of services and the types of things that they offer and how the industry has changed. And maybe it's a function of my age, or these are things that concern the top half of our generation here in Moore County.
Yes.
And it's important to get the word out. So I guess you have such a nice disposition about the way you present. If you had 1 or 2 things to say to people who were sitting on the bench deciding whether or not this is something they need to listen to, open their minds to for the future, what would you tell them?
That's a great question. I would encourage people to talk with their healthcare provider.
Okay.
And talk with their family. And well in advance to say, okay, when we get to this point in life, what do I want my life to look like? And families should talk with their loved ones. What do you want as you age? Do you want, there's all kinds of things you can do. There is a website that I love called theconversationproject.org.
Oh, what a great title.
Okay. Theconversationproject.org, and it helps guide people through tough conversations. And within that is an end-of-life segment, and it helps people organize their thoughts about what they want.
Okay. I'll find that link, and I'll put it in the synopsis.
Yes.
Because we're going to feature the show not just on the radio, but as a podcast.
Fantastic.
And people can come and listen to it. And you're a very compelling speaker and heartfelt, and that comes through.
Thank you.
I appreciate the time and the conversation, because it was a conversation. And it's something that I encourage people. And they can go to your website.
They can.
And
it's firsthealth.org/hospice.
Simple.
And that's a good resource for learning about hospice just in general as a type of care. And also firsthealth.org/palliative care.
Perfect. Easy. It was a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.
Really enjoy it, and I'm sure we will see you down the road, and just great overview today.
Thank you for letting me talk.
Thank you. Dorothy, thanks. This is All Things Moore County. We'll see you next week.